dokunursan tenime günah mı yazıyor? Nazlanmayı bırak, 3 günlük dünyada benim içim yanıyor da. Sende yürek var mı? Sende yürek var mı? Gözlerinde gördüğüm aşka mı benziyor? Dudakların güzelim davet mi bekliyor? Gizlemeye kalkma, çok belli oluyor. Benim içim yanıyor da. Sende yürek var mı? Sende yürek var mı? Sokulursan yanıma ayıp mı oluyor? Dokunursan tenime günah mı yazıyor? Nazlanmayı bırak, 3 günlük dünyada benim içim yanıyor da. Sende yürek var mı? Sende yürek var mı?
No rigas con ti maraví. No rigas con ti maraví. Tu profondo amor nunca lo ofrecí. Tu profondo amor nunca lo ofrecí. ¿Qué va a ser de mí? ¿Qué va a devenir? ¿Qué va a ser de mí? ¿Qué va a devenir? Del amor por ti, JW3 salí. Del amor por ti, JW3 salí. Ya no puedo más cantar, querido. Ni mis ojos más llorar. Estoy perdiendo mi vida sin poderte alcanzar. a levanta jaco en bodas y en veris. Ah, no te amostres flaco, que tienes musteris. Chalguilli de meana, yo les canto sin quedar. Me maneo como un barco, a mí ya me llaman Jaco. Me maneo como un barco, a mí ya me llaman Jaco. Opa. Ajá, levanta Jaco en bodas y en veris. Y no te amostres flaco, que tienes musteris. Chalguilli de meana, yo les canto sin quedar. Me meto como viola para les llevar la bolsa. Me meto como viola para les llevar la bolsa. Que no amanezca nunca, Javerín. Yalla, yalla, para gang interviche, tú que lo veigas. A levanta Jaco en bodas y en veris. No te amostres flaco, que tienes musteris. Chalguilli de meana, yo me mostro muy cornaz. Se las tomo al que bebe, les canto como se debe. Se las tomo al que bebe, les canto como se debe. parsejo al charshi, madangas, parsejo al charshi, madangas, parsejo al charshi, una gallina que mercó, la gallina kikikiki, el kikikiki, si sabes la mi señora y por cuánto la mercó. Madangas, parsejo al charshi, madangas, parsejo al charshi, madangas, parsejo al charshi, es un gallo que mercó, el gallo que dice cucucucú, la gallina kikikiki, el cucucucú, el kikikiki, si sabes la mi señora y por cuánto la mercó. Madangas, parsejo al charshi, madangas, parsejo al charshi, madangas, parsejo al charshi, un papagayo que mercó, el papagayo, papá, el gallo que dice cucucucú, la gallina kikikiki, el papá, el cucucucú, el kikikiki, si sabes la mi señora y por cuánto la mercó. Madangas, parsejo al charshi, madangas, parsejo al charshi, madangas, parsejo al charshi, es un gato que mercó, el gato que dice ña 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 ña, el papagayo, papá, el gallo que dice cucucucú, la gallina kikikiki, el ña 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 ña, el papá, el cucucucú, el kikikiki, si sabes la mi señora y por cuánto la mercó. Madangas, parsejo al charshi, madangas, parsejo al charshi, madangas, parsejo al charshi, es un perro que mercó, el perro que dice guau 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 guau, el gato que dice ña 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 ña, el papagayo, papá, el gallo que dice cucucucú, la gallina kikikiki, el guau 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 guau, el ña 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 ña, el papá, el cucucucú, el kikikiki, en el charshi. Madangas, parsejo al charshi, es un perro que mercó, el perro que dice que tenga el gusto sonriente, que alegre mi corazón y me ame con pasión y renda mi vida más contente, que alegre mi corazón y me ame con pasión, donde que tope una que es placiente. Que tenga hoyos dulces almendrados, labios frescos que no son pintados, labios que hablan la verdad.
Good evening. It is a pleasure to welcome you to JW3, the home of Jewish culture and conversation. Those of you who are here for the first time, I do hope you will become regular visitors. My name is Adam Kendler and I'm the volunteer coordinator here at JW3. I'm delighted to welcome to the stage Linda Dangoor as she launches her second cookbook, From the Tigris to the Thames, in conversation with Lyn Julius from Harif. From the Tigris to the Thames recounts leaving her Baghdadi home and her journey living in various countries and discovering their unique dishes. There will be a chance to ask questions at the end. Please wait for the microphone and ensure that you ask a question. There is also a photographer here. If you do not wish to be in a photo, please make yourself known to the photographer. And after, you're invited to join us in the restaurant for a book signing of both of Linda's cookbooks and have a small taster. Please note the food served does contain nuts. At this point, please ensure that your mobile phones are switched to silent or turned off. I will now ask you to join me in giving a warm welcome to Dr. Bea Lukowitz from Sephardi Voices.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my absolute pleasure to welcome you tonight. My name is Bea Lefkowitz, and I'm the founder and director of Sephardi Voices UK, an oral history archive of Jews from the Middle East, North Africa, and Iran who settled in the UK. Let me introduce you to our two fabulous speakers tonight, Lyn Julius and Linda Dangoor. Lyn Julius is the daughter of Iraqi Jewish refugees. She's a journalist, author, blogger, and speaker with a particular interest in the mass exodus of Jews from the Middle East and North Africa in the 20th century. Her book, Uprooted, How 3,000 Years of Jewish Civilization in the Arab World Vanished Overnight, published by Valentine Mitchell, has been translated into Norwegian, Portuguese, Arabic, and a Hebrew version is in progress. She's the founder of Harif, the UK Association of Jews from the MENA. Linda Dangoor is a designer, painter, and ceramicist and food writer. She was born in Baghdad into a Babylonian Jewish family and moved together with her family first to Lebanon in 1959 and then to the UK in 1961. A graduate of the Central School of Arts and Design, she worked in the design field for many years, specializing in greeting cards and other products for the gift market in both Paris and later in London. Her first cookbook, Flavors of Babylon, which I'm sure many of you have read, was published in 2011, and tonight we're here to celebrate the publication of her second book entitled From the Tigris to the Thames. Linda describes the book as, quote, part memoir and part cookbook, in which recipes are interwoven with personal reflections on the idea of home and belonging. Before handing over the microphone to Linda and Lyn, I'd just like to say a few words. I was privileged to have interviewed both Linda's father, Abdallah Dangoor, in 2010, and Linda in 2016 for Sephardi Voices UK. And I'm very pleased that my portrait of Linda from that interview actually made it into the last pages of the book. Linda and her father appear on the homepage of our new redesigned website. Please have a look, Sephardi Voices UK, in the short film we've produced on exploring identities. And let me quote what they are both saying in the film. Abdallah, who was born in Baghdad in 1914, said when I asked him about his identity, quote, how can I deny that I am Iraqi? I didn't go there as an immigrant. I've been there for 3,000 years. When we were there, we didn't feel that we were in a place to which we did not belong. End of quote. When I asked Linda how her experience of exile has impacted on her life, she said, quote, when you lose your parents, you become bereft. You know, you become an orphan. A country is also like a parent. And if the politics of that country rejects you, then you're also an orphan. I used to feel that I was an orphan. I was being orphaned because I don't have a country. And it's quite hard when a country rejects you. Of course, as you get older, you get used to it. End of quote. To me, Linda's book, From the Tigris to the Thames, speaks to both these quotes. Her recipes and memories illustrate the rich Iraqi Jewish history, made tangible through those wonderful dishes in her first chapter, but the entire book exemplifies that Jews who were displaced from their countries took their cultures and memories with them, and that they absorbed many new cultures on their journeys. The book is Linda's personal journey, which might have started from a feeling of being orphaned, but takes us on a rich journey through different cultures and leaves us with a sense of homecoming and belonging through food and community. Linda, in the tradition of cookbook writer and cultural anthropologist Claudia Roden, who is here with us tonight, has shown us that food is a vessel of memory and identity. Recipes need to be collected and written down so that they can be passed on and reinterpreted by the next generations. Like Linda's narrated memories, they provide a connection to past worlds and facilitate a connection to the present and future. Her recipes illustrate her personal journey from Baghdad to London, but at the same time, they create a tapestry of tastes which form a part of a much wider human story in search of belonging. I'd like to finish my short comments tonight by paying tribute to another Iraqi-born writer and Sephardi Voices interviewee, academic Sami Zubeida, who passed away in April, and who co-edited 2 books on food. One was called A Taste of Time, Culinary Cultures of the Middle East, and another one, Food, Politics and Society, Social Theory and the Modern Food System. His research highlighted how culinary traditions are deeply intertwined with social and political structures shaping cultural identities. In my interview with him, he told me that he was also writing a memoir with food at its focus. I hope he was able to finish the manuscript and that it might be published in the future. So now, without further ado, please welcome Linda Dangoor and Lyn Julius. Thank you.
Here we go. Good to see. Is this on?
Hello? Yes.
Yes,
it's on.
the mic is on. That's good.
Well, thank you, Bea, who does wonderful work for Sephardi Voices UK. And good evening, everybody, and welcome to the launch of Linda's new book, From the Tigris to the Thames, Flavors of a Journey. And I'm delighted to be interviewing Linda, who I've known for many years.
For a long time.
For a long time. We will be talking for about 40 minutes or so, and afterwards there'll be a chance to ask questions. But I hope you haven't eaten too much dinner, because you've got some amazing treats in
Yes,
store.
I've been working. I've been working for
She's
3
been-
days.
She's been working for
Doing
3
canapés.
days, and you told me that you only stopped cooking at
5
5 o'clock this
today.
evening.
Yeah.
Okay, so my first question to you, Linda, is you call your book a cookbook, but isn't it a lot more than that?
It certainly is a cookbook because it has over 100 recipes, but it's also about being uprooted, displaced, and exile. So I always advise people to read the narrative, because this will explain why you find Iraqi recipes side by side with French recipes, side by side Lebanese recipes, or Spanish ones. Because the book, this particular book, does not focus on one cuisine, like my other book. Flavors of Babylon was really about Iraqi family recipes. So this one is much more eclectic. It doesn't have that focus. And so the new book traces my journey from Baghdad, Beirut, London in the 60s, then Paris, and in between Spain, Ibiza, where my father worked. And so there I have encountered new cultures and the cuisine of different places, which has really enriched my way of cooking.
And
But the book is also about seeking home, seeking a place that I could call home, a place where I could sort of plant my roots in. And that was always quite difficult, you know, since I've lost my home and my homeland. It really did affect me very much. Perhaps not for other people, but for me it really did affect me. And this preoccupation of trying to find a place to call home has been with me for many, many years. It's a little bit like Cinderella trying to find the right shoe, you know. Until you find the right shoe, you're not comfortable.
No, absolutely. So you were going to read a short passage from your book,
Yes.
Linda.
Yes, yes. I think it's this one, yeah, if I may. So this quote by Salman Rushdie is a very lovely one. It says, "The past is a country from which we have all emigrated," which I think should resonate with everybody. So I'll just read very quickly. In our modern world, many of us are part of not just one, but many cultures and groups. We are where we have trod and more. So it is that since my family's exile from our Iraqi homeland in the late 1950s, I have inhabited and sojourned in many countries, and the word home has taken on another, somewhat fragmented meaning. Is home where I was born, or where I have put down roots? Is home a dish, or perhaps a flavor? As Salman Rushdie so aptly put it, our identity today is at once plural and partial. And this plurality, this mingling between cultures, has enriched my own identity and also the food that I cook today. Each journey that I took to a new country brought with it the hope of a new beginning and the possibility of putting down roots. During those years, I encountered new languages and new traditions, and like a rolling stone, collected stories and new flavors along the way. Thus, From the Tigris to the Thames is not a formal cookbook. It does not focus on a specific cuisine as my other book. It is a sort of tapestry, part memoir, part cookbook, where I interweave recipes with personal reflections on the idea of home and belonging.
And just to tell you that there isn't a book like it. I mean, Claudia Roden obviously wrote stories connected to various recipes, but this is a personal journey, and I find it very, very original and compelling. You simply have to read the first few pages. I mean, the first part of the book.
Well,
your
I
journey.
think some people, Lyn, will go straight and dive into the recipes. That's what they want. But to make sense of it, it would be nice that they could read the narrative and the story,
Yeah.
because then it would really make sense of the whole thing. Yeah.
Absolutely. So you were born in Iraq
Yes.
into a very ancient Jewish community, maybe
Yes.
the oldest diaspora,
Yes.
almost 3,000 years old. Can you give us a flavor of your childhood in Iraq? How important was food? And what do you miss most? And then what do you miss least? And perhaps we could illustrate what you're going to tell me
yes,
with,
I
with some
will.
images.
Yes,
Yeah.
because I talk about the picnic. Yes, in 1 second. Let me see. I'll just do this. Okay. So all I want to say is you must remember that my memories are that of a child. I left when I was 10. A lot of people left when they were adults, so they were fully formed. So my memories are sort of, I wouldn't say childlike, but they're not as complex as somebody who would have lived there for much longer. So my home was my world. We lived in a house with my grandparents, with our 4 cousins, with 2 uncles, 3 aunts, and even my grandmother's brother, who would come and stay with us. So our tradition of living together like a tribe was like being in a mini society. Our house stood on the Tigris River. In fact, it was very, very near. We could just cross the road, and that's where we would go. And the Tigris, in fact, was a very, very important presence for a lot of us. I learned to swim there, like a lot of people. And what I loved was, in the summer, the level of water would go down and would emerge these sandy islands on which we would do our picnics. We'll have picnics there. You can see Auntie Eileen is there.
Auntie Eileen is sitting here.
Yes.
That's her there.
Yes. And these islands actually were very useful for a lot of people who lived in the city, because it was so hot that they would pitch their tent and live there for 2-3 months of the year, because it was much cooler. So that's my father and me, and even Freddie. And I think that's
Sitting here.
Robert. Yeah.
You've got all your family here as well.
But the view there of the other side was where the palace was, the royal palace was, and that is the view that we had from our house. There's another, and my mother and us. So we actually we used the Tigris a lot.
Was it a bit, I wouldn't say dangerous, but awkward for girls to learn to swim? I've always wondered about
It's very
this.
funny. I went
Yeah.
with my brothers,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know about later, but maybe people here can talk about that, but I remember going there with my brothers, and we had, I can't remember what he was called. Ibrahim, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah,
Was it
I had an
many
aunt.
other Sabah. Ibrahim is Sabah. Many Ali.
Hi. Oh, that was the teacher, the swimming teacher.
Ah,
Hi.
okay.
Right. So I had an aunt whose name was George when she was swimming in the Tigris, so as not to
George?
George, yes, so as not to attract attention.
Oh.
Yeah.
So, what do I miss? You know, Lyn, I don't think that's the right word. I have fond memories. I don't think I miss anything. You know, it's been so long ago. So I have fond memories of the excitement of the new season's fruits. That was just, we were expecting, you know, after the winter to have new season's fruits. And in fact, in our garden, we had a pomelo tree, we had I think it's called Seville oranges. It's naranj is the closest to Seville oranges.
The bitter ones.
The bitter ones, yes. We had that tree. We had a berry tree we called tikki. And
Did you have the nabuk tree?
we had the nabok tree. And the nabok tree was not in the garden, funnily enough. It was either growing through the garage or next to the garage. But it was tall enough to go on the first floor. Its branches would go on the first floor, and we would pick the fruit. And the fruit was perfumed and sweet. It was really, really lovely. We loved that. I think it's called jujube fruit.
Yeah.
It's the jujube fruit. So we loved that.
Yeah.
And when we were on holiday, Frank and I went to India. At one point, he goes, "Oh, look, nabog." He saw a stall of somebody selling nabog.
Yeah.
And so we bought some. But it was kind of flowery, not sweet at all, and really big. It had nothing.
No.
Yeah.
Apparently there are different types. Anyway.
Probably, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I tell you what I also loved. Every day, fresh bread would be delivered to us, round fresh bread like that was made baked in a tandoor.
Yeah.
And this might surprise everybody. What I really loved was the fat, pieces of fat from lamb fat, that would be grilled with the meat. And all us kids would want that piece of fat. It was so delicious. It was gleamingly white. But liyi, it was called liyi. And the thing is that we had a specific kind of sheep where the liyi, the fat, was mostly found in the tail. So it's called a fat-tailed sheep or something.
Right.
It's not like the lamb that you get here or the sheep that you get here, where the fat is all over the body.
Yeah.
So, I remember loving that.
Amazing, yeah. And I was struck by the sounds in your book, actually, because I actually hadn't been aware of it. People pounding spices.
Yeah, we had a hawan, I think it's called hawan, a very big one that was
Is
in
that
brass.
the mortar and pestle?
Yes. And cling, 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 especially to make kubba.
Okay.
So they would crush rice to make the kubba paste.
Right. All very time-consuming, I should imagine.
Yes, but I've actually made it. If you make it with somebody else and you divide the chore, it's quite nice, actually. And you sit there talking, and it's really nice. It's not that bad.
So was it in 1958 your family decided to leave?
No.
No.
1959.
1959.
1958, Iraq went from being a monarchy to a republic. There was a military coup, and everything changed after that, and the airport was closed. Things were quite unstable and quite dangerous for everybody. And I think at that time, my parents and also probably my cousin's parents thought this is not a good place to bring up a family.
Right.
And I think the idea of leaving when the airport would be open was brewing in their mind. But there's one part in the book where I recount my grandmother. Let me just see if I can find it. This is before. This is one of my favorite stamps. It's an Ottoman stamp. Freddie, that is an Ottoman stamp, isn't it? No, after. 1917. 1923. I really, really love it. It's a beautiful, beautiful stamp. Anyway, oh.
Gosh.
Oh,
So,
this is something else.
yeah,
I want
actually, I just ask you very quickly, why don't you have many Iraqi Jewish recipes in your book? I mean, this is the classic tabit. Everyone knows that.
This is an easy tabit,
Right.
because the tabit is done with a whole chicken.
Yeah.
These are pieces, and you just put it in the oven with all the spices in there, right? Yeah. And then, this is luzina.
Yeah.
Made of quince. And I'll answer your question in a minute.
Yeah.
So this is a bowl that we always put stews in. And when my aunt Aileen came to London in 1974, she had 2 of those. And she said, "Would you like one?" And I said, "Yes," because that is one of the plates of my childhood. And I loved it so much. And for a long time, I thought that was typically Iraqi ceramics. Until I turned it the other day, well, a year ago, and it said made in Japan.
Oh,
So
better than made in China.
yeah. And so I have the mazgouf as well.
Yeah.
Because it's an iconic fish dish of Iraq.
Right.
So you ask why I don't have so many. So the book is divided into chapters: Baghdad, Beirut, London in the 60s, Spain, and France. And so for the Baghdad chapter, I put a few recipes, but I can't double. I can't copy what I did in Flavors of Babylon.
Right.
There's no point. Which is my first book.
The first book.
So I've put 1 or 2 recipes that are in that book, but I've put new ones in as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And of course, as you say, fish is an iconic dish because it's caught in the Tigris River, isn't it?
Yes.
Everyone raves about samak masgouf.
Yeah.
Or used to.
Well, I don't know. Apparently, the Tigris is quite polluted now. So
Yeah.
But I remember when we used to sleep on the roof because we were right on the water's edge.
Yeah.
The smell would
smell it.
come out.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'd
yeah,
sleep with
yeah.
the aroma coming up, lulling
Didn't
us
get
to
much sleep then.
no, lulling us to sleep.
Lovely. So let's move on to your journey to Beirut. You were going to show us.
So yes, so just before going to Beirut, in 1958, I think my father was having coffee with my grandmother, and she said, "Let me read your coffee cup." It was a lovely activity, so we were all sitting there. And as usual, she was looking, and she said, "Are you going to get a letter from somebody?" A letter was like, something wonderful. And then she looked very troubled, and she said, "You will be leaving us soon." And a year later we left, never to return.
Never to return. So you arrive in Beirut, and how different was that from Iraq?
Completely different. I'm just saying, completely different. First of all, the sea. It was wonderful. I hadn't seen the sea I'd never seen the sea before. But what was so lovely about it, well, I'll just show you. So this was probably a week or two after we had arrived in Beirut. So our family is on the right, and David and his family on the left. And this...
That's your first cousin, David.
Yeah, David Dangoor. And
right.
This is Naim Dangoor, his father, René Dangoor, Abdallah Dangoor, my father, Claire Dangoor, my mother. I think David gave me this picture because he meticulously put our names on each person.
Yeah, and you're eating little plates, aren't you?
This
From
is
little
it.
plates.
So this is a very, very important sort of
distinction.
Picture, a photo. First of us, we are reunited, but in a different place. This was in Zahle. Zahle was a place north of Beirut in the mountains. And the food was so wonderful. Little plates, not heavy stews. The flavors were completely different. Very much lighter food. And also, it was my first experience of being in a restaurant. I've never been, I had never been to a restaurant. I always ate at home in Baghdad. So that was really, really exciting. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yes.
The food was so totally different.
Yeah, more Levantine, I'd say.
Sorry?
More Levantine.
Yes,
than,
yes.
Than Iraqi.
Right. Yeah.
So your next stop is London.
Oh, yeah, that's right. So London in the 60s. And these are wonderful photographs that my brother took in the 60s of London. They're very, very atmospheric.
Yeah. But it was always raining.
It was always raining, and I loved that at first. I thought, how exotic, But I soon regretted it. And so, but it was a very joyful sort of first year in London, because we also had a TV, never had a TV before. So my brothers and I were glued to the television, and especially to all the advertisements. And we wanted to buy every single thing that we saw, especially the sweets. You see, everywhere you went, there were sweets.
Yeah.
It was amazing. We never had sweets in Baghdad.
No.
Because people think, oh, yes, but you always had... baklava and all this, but these sweets were for special occasions. Yeah. Here, you had them every day. Wherever you went, there were sweets.
Polo, yeah, we remember that.
And also, it was the time of change in the 60s for London and for the UK, I suppose. And Mary Quant was the thing with the Beatles. Now, I had very frizzy hair, very, very difficult to manage. And I wanted to have the Mary Quant look.
Yeah.
So I would get my hair and put it on an ironing board and iron it. And then I got this wonderful straight hair. Yeah. The minute I went out, it would just start to curl up and become all frizzy again. So my hair was one of the most difficult things to do.
Well, I think now it's fashionable to have frizzy hair. Or
yes,
curly.
but now, my hair's gone a bit straighter now.
Okay, and how did your mother obtain the ingredients she needed for her Iraqi cooking in London in the 60s?
I think it was difficult, but she somehow found a place, talking to my aunt Doreen and where to go. And there was a Greek Cypriot shop in Moscow Road.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Everyone remembers. Is it the Athena Green Grocery? Yeah, my mother used to go there too.
And she got most of the
Yeah.
things there.
Yeah.
But then she also, tried to do different types of cooking.
Right.
She loved cakes, and she always did love making
Right.
cakes, baking cakes and
Yeah.
sweets.
Yeah.
So that was quite easy.
Yeah.
But I must tell you, I used to hate milk in Iraq because it used to come straight from the farm. Sometimes they used to bring the cow as well and milk it there. And so even though they boiled it to make it
Pasteurized.
yeah, pasteurized, it smelled of the animal, and I hated it. I just couldn't. Coming here, most wonderful, wonderful milk, totally sanitized. And the best one was the one that was called the gold top,
Yeah.
where you had
Yes,
the
the
cream floating at the
cream.
top. That was the most delicious part.
That's lovely. So you were sent to a French school where it was quite hard for you, wasn't it? Because they were all so precocious, and they all had boyfriends, didn't they?
Yes, I went to a French school. I was 13 then, because I went to an English school when I was 12, so I could learn a bit of English, because my English was not very good. And then I went to the lycée, and the girls who were 12 and 13 were so sophisticated. They even wore stockings. And I came with my socks, and they were talking about boyfriends. And to be honest, I was a little bit lost because it was a new culture. I really didn't understand. So one day I thought, I'm going to make up a boyfriend. And in one of our sort of parties, Iraqi community parties, I cut out a face. I'm not going to say who, but he was quite handsome. And I cut it out, and I put it in, I don't know, in a book or something. And when people said, have you got a boyfriend? Actually, yes.
That's him.
So I always wanted to fit in.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
But I must tell you, it was at that time that I felt the loss, that exile was also about loss.
Yeah.
And okay, so I lost my home, and the community was dispersed. But the most sensitive thing for me was loss of language. I loved Arabic so much. Had I stayed in Iraq, had the situation be conducive enough for us Jews, I would have been a writer or a journalist. So how did we lose language? I think my parents encouraged us to speak English so that we could integrate quite quickly. And slowly, Arabic faded imperceptibly in our daily life. So this made me feel even more rootless.
But someone suggested that you should channel your talents, your writing talents, into art. And that's what you did.
Well, not so consciously, but I think
Yeah.
my mother, who was quite intuitive, she pushed me to study painting and drawing, even though I was no good at it.
Really?
No. I actually failed art O-level. And I mean, it was the most basic. But I continued, I persevered, and then I passed A-level art. And
Just
then I
in
went
time.
to art school.
Right.
And being at art school, that was a new vehicle a new vehicle of expression for me,
Mm.
a silent one, no words as such, but yeah.
Yeah, very good. So you then go to Paris and you spend 14 years there.
Yes, have I got
And you
any
set up your
pictures?
own business in Paris, a graphic design business? Or-
Yes, it's more like products for the gift market. So I did all sorts of things. I did postcards, greeting cards. I did table mats. I did napkins. I did also towels, all sorts. Yes, and once you must realize also that French was with Arabic my first language. My mother used to speak to us in French. So it wasn't so strange going there, and I love French, the French language. So after many years, I did spend 14 years in Paris. So after quite a few years, I started to feel French. And I thought, maybe I could put my roots here. My company was French, my friends were French. I had half a bottle of wine every day with my food. I really, really felt it was the closest I could come to calling it home.
Right. Sorry, I don't want to skip the Ibethan interlude, which presumably was, which you experienced at the same time as living in London. Is that right?
Yes,
Well,
yes.
the-
I
yeah.
used to go and visit my parents because my
Yeah.
father worked there, and
Right.
my parents lived there for half the year.
Yeah.
So, in fact, actually being in Spain or in Ibiza, it was a beautiful island when we first went there. I felt that the people were the closest to us. The way they looked after their grandparents, their children, they felt very, very Oriental. Not Oriental, how do I say, Eastern, if you like.
So very
Very-
close
Very
families.
close, yes.
Yeah.
And
Right.
although I did Italian at school, I actually learned Spanish
Spanish there.
by going there a lot.
Yeah.
And it was
But there was something that was actually quite alien. Can you tell us about some food that was quite alien, which you loved in Ibiza, but then you subsequently discovered?
Oh, yes, yes. So we used to go to this wonderful cafe called the Montesol. It's a very iconic Belle Époque cafe. My father would have a coffee. I'd have, I don't know, an horchata drink.
Horchata.
And then we would ask for ensaimada. Ensaimada is like a bread that is done in a spiral and slightly sweet. And it was delicious. And we used to eat it the whole time.
Yeah.
While investigating the ensaimada for this book,
Yeah.
I found out that the word saim means pork fat. And ensaimada means pork fatted. And I thought, this is what we've been eating the whole time without knowing it. Yeah, but apparently now it's done with butter as well, because there are lots of tourists that go there, but perhaps don't want to. But that was a shock.
Yeah.
But I must say, it was delicious.
So you're back in Paris, and you thought you were French. You
I
were
really
truly
did.
French.
I really did, which,
Yeah.
I don't know how, but I really felt I could be part of that place. Yeah.
And then you had your Proustian moment. Can you explain what happened?
I'll give you half of it. So a Lebanese friend made these cookies that she gave to a friend of mine, who then gave them to me to taste. And I tasted one. And that was my Proustian moment, because the biscuits had rose water in them. So I'll let you read the book and see what happens.
Yeah, we don't want to give away too much.
I don't know if I've got
Okay,
any
so-
more.
Yeah.
Have I got any more pictures? I'm not sure.
Not.
Oh yes, that's London.
Ah,
Oh yeah,
there
yeah.
you go.
yeah.
That's London.
Yeah.
But when you come back to
Yes.
London, so you return to London,
Yes.
and you write. Sometimes one travels far, very far, in search of something very near,
Yes.
saliently under one's nose. So coming back to London, how had London changed for you? And what was it that you found in London that was missing in your life?
Well, certainly London had changed, but also I had changed. I realized that living for so long in Paris, if I may, I'd like to, I don't know if I can, I try to learn it by heart. I'd like to just read a quote by John Donne, part of a poem. It says, "No man is an island," no, you see, I haven't learned it, "entire of itself. Every man is a piece of the continent, a part of the main." So I realized when I was in France, I was an island. I was living like an island. I was not part of the main. When I came back, I felt part of the main in my community. My community that I wouldn't say I rejected, but I tried to get away from when I was trying to be English. If you see, it has to do with trying to find your identity.
Yeah.
So, and I think part of the main means you are connected to something. So when I came back, I met people who knew me, who knew my grandparents, who knew my parents. It suddenly became so easy. I was no longer an island. And yeah, it was. And also, I must say, it was the time that I met my husband, Frank.
Yeah.
And for a very long time, when I was younger, I never wanted to marry an Iraqi. But marrying Frank actually connected me to my homeland. And I said to him just before we got married, I lost, oh, I'm not going to cry now.
No, don't.
I lost my home in Baghdad. But you will be my homeland.
Ah. That's lovely. So your return to London wasn't really a return to London, it was a return to your Iraqi Jewish community in London.
Yes, I didn't
Yeah.
quite know. I returned also because my parents were getting on
Yeah.
and perhaps feeling that I was living like an island at the end, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a community that perhaps in my youth I took for granted.
Yeah.
I realized how rich it was. And also there is a balance to be part of a community, but not to be swamped by it. So how there's a balance to be
Yeah. Not
part of it, but
yeah.
also an independent
any
person.
person.
Yeah.
Right. So you're back in London, and the rest of the book, there are about 100 pages of recipes which you yourself more or less have devised.
Well, it's what I cook at home.
What you cook at home, but they all have a slight Middle Eastern twist, or they're very original recipes.
Oh,
think.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, some
And
of
they're
them.
easy, because I'm always looking for easy recipes. So I recommend
But
you
also, I use a lot of
yeah.
sort of dips and sauces. So you
Yeah.
could actually take a piece of fish. A lot of people are afraid to cook fish. You just take a piece of fish, and I mean a fillet in this case, or even a fish, a whole fish. But if you have the right sort of dip or sauce, or you put this fish in the oven without anything, just a bit of salt maybe, or a squeeze of lemon. If you have done a coriander dip like the one in my book, then you just put that on top, and it is absolutely delicious. So what I'm saying is that it doesn't need to be very complicated,
Yeah.
but you need to be organized.
Right.
Like you do, you make, let's say, preserved lemon, which has the most fantastic flavor, but only after 2, 3, 4 months. So after you make it, you forget about it. But then it's a treasure. It's a
then
treasure
you
of
can
flavor.
enjoy it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, I think we've
Yeah,
more
so
or less. Are there any more images you'd like
well,
to
it's just
show?
that.
Yeah,
Welcome to
there's
my
just-
kitchen. That's the last. That's the last one.
So my last point really is that this is a most unusual cookbook. It's more than a cookbook, and all the photographs in it were actually taken by Linda. And how long did it take you to put this book together?
I think it started about 6 years ago, or 6 or
Gosh.
7 years ago. But
Yeah.
in the middle, I was exhibiting
Yeah.
my ceramics. So, but I would say the last 2.5 years, every day was on the book.
Right.
Yes, but the whole idea started way back. But I started to write
Yeah.
about 6, 7 years ago.
Okay.
You know, on bits
Yeah.
of paper that I collected.
Okay, so everybody is encouraged to obviously buy a copy next door, where Linda will be signing her book. So I
And-
thought we could
And please
yeah.
do taste all the hard work that I have
Yeah,
done in the
yeah.
kitchen. I
It's-
hope you like it.
Yeah, so 3 days worth. She's been slaving away on all the wonderful things. Actually, what have we got in store?
Well, there is a menu outside.
Right.
I have muhammara, which is a red pepper dip, which is a Levantine dip. I have a chickpea spread, which is take on Iraqi spread. That actually, it's a stuffing that's used in sambusak batawa.
Uh-huh.
But I take it
Took
and I put it.
the
yeah,
filling
it's
and
a filling.
did
Yeah,
something new with it.
I've made
really.
a very nice spicy cold soup. I've got what do I? Oh yes, and I have a kind of egg tortilla, but it's not really an egg tortilla. It's got herbs in it, and
Yeah,
anyway, little squares.
yeah.
And then the only sweet thing is I call them seed clusters. So seeds with sugar
Right.
and egg. There will be a tiny difference in that as I was cooking in this kitchen, and I'm not very familiar with the kitchen, I thought I'll put a little bit more sugar on top of this sweet. And after I put the sugar and everything, put it in the oven, found out that it was salt. So what I tried to do is take it out of the oven, put sugar on top, put it back in the oven. So there is a kind of salty, sweet taste. So some people like it anyway, but it wasn't intentional.
Okay. So I think we've got time for 5 or 10 minutes of questions, have we? Yeah? Before we rush in, I know it's very tempting to rush in and eat the food. Okay, so is there a roving mic? Yeah? That lady here's got a roving mic. Anybody want to ask the first question?
No, that's
Yeah.
good.
Very good. So I think it's the lady in the middle there. Wait a minute. Wait for the mic.
Linda, who taught you how to cook?
My mother. She's still alive, a fantastic cook. And I was her sous chef when we first arrived in London. And I would make mayonnaise. She would teach me how to make a vinaigrette. And she was so meticulous. I loved watching her cook. So it was her.
Anyone else? I think this gentleman there in the green. You're being approached from the other angle.
Hi, Linda. Your book is called From the Tigris to the Thames. So
Yes.
what are the dishes from the Thames that you absolutely love? What did you bring back?
You do ask a very difficult question. Well, in that chapter, there are lots of sweets that I talk about, but really fish and chips. Fish and chips and egg curry and vitello al limone, because it was in London where I learned about Indian cooking and also Italian cooking. Yeah, that's all. That's all that there is in that chapter.
Any more questions? Yeah, up there.
Thank you for such a moving conversation between both of you. I was very struck, Linda, what you had
I can't hear you.
I was very struck what you were saying about the loss of Arabic.
Yes.
Have you kept it going in any way?
Well, what happened was that when my grandparents came out of Iraq, I think it was in 1973, and they came to stay with us. And when my grandmother came, I kissed her hand, which is what I always used to do. And she'd say, no, please, don't kiss my hand. I found I couldn't say what I wanted to say to her, which was really painful. And because of my grandparents being there, the Arabic came back. And so, so I speak Arabic. I can read it, but slowly. What I've lost is not the spoken Arabic, but the literary Arabic, which was so beautiful. I've lost that. I can read, but I don't understand all of it. So I've kept up. With Frank, I do speak in Arabic. With English.
I think there's one there.
Linda, hi. Just want to ask, for those of us who are not really au fait, not big cooks, would you give us 3 recipes in your book that we could go to and say, oh my God, yes, I can do that? Have you got 3 there that are
Typical.
relatively simple? Sorry?
No. 3
Well, the
very
mahamra, I tell you, I've tried your mahamra.
you
'cause I
mean
bought the
very
book already.
simple ones? You
Yeah, 3 simple recipes that we could go to. I tried the mahamra that we're having tonight.
Well, there is the
and that was
muhammara, which
simple.
is the
Yeah.
dip. But if you look at my fish recipes, there are loads that are so easy. So I'll have to look. Shall I look? Okay.
And I have to say that I've actually tried a fish recipe by Linda, and I really am not a good cook. And it was marvelous. It was simple, it was quick, and it was delicious.
Lovely. So there's sea bass with capers and preserved lemon. There is, let me see, there is halibut, but you can use any white fish in a Mediterranean sauce. All these take no more than 15 minutes to make. There is poached mackerel with honey and vinegar, which is delicious. Because, you know, mackerel usually has a very strong smell. So if you fry it, the whole house stinks. But if you poach it, you know, like in a parcel, and then afterwards put a bit of honey and vinegar, it's a bit like an escabeche, you know, when it goes back to the Persians that used to use sweet and sour.
Can you say something about that, actually, the Persian influence on food?
Not much, but let's say in the Middle Ages, the tomato was not discovered yet and hasn't been sort of disseminated everywhere. So they used to make sauces with fruits, apricots, pears, anything that was sweet, honey as well. And then to temper the sweetness, they would put vinegar or lime or lemon. So you get the sweet and sour sauces. And the Jews of Iraq use a lot of sweet and sour sauces. Not so much the Muslims. Like our kubbas are always in sweet and sour sauce. And I think they do make kubba. They make them bigger. They make them with turnips or some other vegetables, but in a tomato sauce. So I think we have kept that Persian tradition. And actually the Arabs took it to North Africa and to Spain. And so now when you go to Spain, you look on the menu, they say escabeche of vegetables or escabeche of some kind of fish. And why is it called escabeche? Because the old Persian name was el sigbaj, which meant a stew made with vinegar. So it was a corrupted sort of pronunciation of that name.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Any more questions? Yeah, this gentleman in the front. Sorry, I think you're nearer.
Is it on? Yeah. I have a question. I, as a young man, spent time in Baghdad in the 50s. I remember there was a delicious large fish that was cooked on the banks of the river, grilled. Yeah. What was it called?
It's called the fish. Was I think
no, the meal. What was it called?
Samak masgoof.
Masgoof. It's called masgoof. Yeah.
That's the one.
Did you have it there?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
There.
Linda, can you describe for us the kitchen in your house in Baghdad and who did the shopping? Because as far as I know, the women didn't do the shopping. Tell us a little bit about that.
So the shopping for food was done by men, and in our household, it was done by my grandfather. The kitchen. The thing I remember is the big mortar and pestle. It was quite a dark kitchen. We didn't have an oven as such, not like today. It was quite dark. It had a very small window, quite high up. I can't really remember much of it. I can't really remember, but we, as children, loved going there. We weren't allowed to go there, but we loved going there. And sometimes we loved going there because the cook, after he'd finished work, he'd lie on the floor to have a nap on the floor. And then he'd have all sorts of ants going all over him. And he wasn't bothered by it. And we used to go and watch because it was just so incredible.
Last question? Yeah, David?
David is going to
Or
ask.
maybe last two questions, because this lady wants to ask. Yeah.
Linda, you talked about smelling the masgoof fish on the roof. Can you elaborate a little about this very particular Baghdadi habit of sleeping in the open air under the stars because of the dry air in Baghdad?
Well,
your experiences and memories of it are.
Well, I think this habit of sleeping on the roof was, everybody did it because we didn't have air conditioning. Or those who did, it was nice, but everybody slept on the roof. But in our case, the roof was quite big. So on the roof, It was me, my two brothers, and my parents. Then a bit further down was Auntie Eileen. On the other side was my grandparents. And then a bit further up was David, Michael, Robert, and Ellie, and Auntie, and Auntie Renee, and Uncle Naim. And sometime a guest would come and there would be another bed. So it was real fun, actually. Yeah.
Very good. I think there's one last question there. The lady in the white blouse.
Hi, Linda. I'm interested in how you identify.
Sorry?
How do you identify culturally?
How do I identify?
Identify yourself
myself?
today,
Yeah,
culturally.
culturally.
Yes, that is a very loaded question. I thought about it for a long time, but it is a bit, I'm helped by Salman Rushdie, who says that our identity is both partial and plural. So I am a Babylonian Jew of mixed Arabic and European culture. And the European culture is probably more pronounced because I lived outside Iraq for much longer. But my love of Arabic has kept me kind of focused on that part that I left behind. Thank you. Thank you. That's good. It went well. So tell them to go and have something to eat.
Supposed to go. So,
would you like to go and have something to eat now?
or as they say,
Or buy some
Fadlu.
books?
Fadlu. Next door.
Shall
Well
I just
done.
leave?
Well done.
I'll leave
Well
this
done.
here. Yeah, well
Yeah,
done. Thank you
yeah.
very much.
Porque niña me hace sufrir.